Ma Vaz must have been a neighbour.
She was, Howard. No, Howard came up. He went to work for Swans. Market garden to start off with, collecting eggs.
Saying the Swans means nothing to Cherie.
And then from the
Swans
family, they knew Mrs. Vaz, as they called her.
But the Swans were neighbours to Nicholson Street?
No, you had to go from Salisbury down to what they called the Blunder, where the Oxley Creek was.
Yes.
And where it went over, where the bridge went over the creek. Old Mr. Bowman lived there, and that's where Ma Vaz was. I think she was born. No, she was born up at Tent Hill in the Gatton area, and they shifted down to Oxley Creek. On the Archerfield side of Oxley Creek was where old Mr. and Mrs. Bowman lived, and that's where Lottie Bowman was, a young girl.
So that was near the Swans?
Yes, near.
So the Swans and the Bowmans were friends?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And Ma Vaz, in her young days, before she came back to live with her parents, she worked at the Waterford Hotel, that jug I gave you.
Hang on, she must have been married somewhere before going back. So she's left?
No, it was after she left the Waterford Hotel and went back to her parents that she married John Vasilenko. Where she met him, I don't know.
Right. So, but was she going, well, I don't know if you know or not, but was she going from the Blunder there to Waterford, or to the hotel to work?
No, she went from living with her parents to Waterford to work.
Mm-hmm.
Then she came back, and somewhere along the line she met John Vasilenkov, and from there she married John Vasilenkov and went working over at Swans Small Crop Farm when they got the gist of
Where was
that.
the Swan Small Crop Farm?
On Sherbrooke Road.
At Oxley.
Oxley Creek, yeah. Or it's called Oxley Creek, the area.
Yeah, it was alright.
And then from there on, they are Ma Vaz and John Vasilenkov and their two kids. By this time they had two children, Anna and
Carl.
And they went to live up on this farm. They bought the farm. And that's where Dad met up with them and started working.
So when Dad met up with him, where was Dad living?
He was still living in Salisbury, Nicholson Avenue. He used to either walk or ride a bike out there.
All right, okay.
That's where he was.
Yeah, that's all right. That just puts it.
And that's when he got to know. He knew Carl there when we left, because she went over and stayed with Maudie Keating. Maudie fell arse over head and cut her arm on a milk bottle.
Oh.
The left arm. And of course she had a lot of treatment and a lot of trouble, so Ma knitted her a sleeve to keep it warm in the winter time. I forget how long she stayed up there, and then she went back to her own little cottage out at Greenbank Road, or
Greenbank.
Yeah, Middle Road, Greenbank.
That's right, that's where it was.
That's where she was.
Yeah.
And she was out there for some years, and when I was working at the deaf school, I finished at 10 o'clock, but I'd go out nearly every week, and this day I went out. She'd been there some time, but she was deteriorating and getting older. And what happened was, I took her out some pre-cooked dinners and said for her they would save her time in cooking. I don't need charity. Ma, it's not charity, it's a small token of appreciation of what you've done for me in years gone by. I still don't need charity. I've got a chook there I'm going to cook. Well, I opened the fridge. The bloody chook was green. By this time, of course, Ma is almost blind.
But green, do you mean it was like off?
Yeah,
it was rotten.
Yeah, it was
yes,
poisoned.
It was rotten. What had happened, her neighbour, who had a nursery over on the north side, had a spoilt bloody kid that used to need babysitting, and they asked Ma would she come over and sit with Emma. While Emma was in her own place, that was all right. But then when they went over to Kenmore for a week or two, Emma wants Ma to come with her. This was an excuse to get a cheap labour babysitter. So Ma went. But what she didn't know, when this other woman came and got it. She switched the power off, but Ma never ever switched the power off. She always left it going for the fridge. This time it was switched off, and Ma thought it was still on.
So she didn't realise that all the food in the fridge went
And
off.
of course, when she did put it on, the woman put it on when she came back. The fridge was going all right, but everything was bad. And I just happened to go out on this day
Well, that was
and
lucky.
found it was
Well, it
bad.
was lucky. Yeah.
It was lucky. So I had no alternative but to ring Carolyn and ask her what she could do about Ma. I felt she was in danger, being on her own, not as far as living was concerned, but not being able to see what was good and what was not good in the fridge. Especially when she'd been taken away and the power switched off and she didn't know it. It was a hard thing to do. So